All right, welcome everybody to another episode of the Monitor Keeping Podcast, a very special episode. It's just me and Kai today, but it is been 1 year since we started this thing, and honestly, I didn't even know it till you posted it, Kai. That we've been out a year already, man.
Luckily, Facebook reminds us of everything,
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, I wasn't sure either if it was, and then I just looked back. I was like, wow, it already has been a year, man.
That's
And
crazy.
we've got in a fair amount of episodes. Been able to get a few different guests on about several different species. Um, Man, and I think the feedback has been very rewarding. Even some of the criticism too. Will take the correct criticism and stuff like that because we can handle that. And it's good to not always think you're right or how you're doing it is right. Things can have some improvement or whatnot, and that's all for us growing.
Yeah.
We don't really know what we're doing, so we're just two guys here with microphones. I literally bought a microphone from like Best Buy. I was like, all right, I'm a podcaster now.
Yep.
And then we just got to work, man. Yeah, we get weekly, if not almost sometimes daily, between Alan and I, and we just share them back and forth or whatnot. Um, yeah, I think I got one earlier today.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was some artist guy, and he typically does paintings of reptiles and stuff. And he said how what I normally talk about for my monitors, he's been able to imply with his. He's actually just gotten back into keeping monitors, so you know how it was back then in the 20s, 20 years ago. In the 20s, in 2030, actually longer than 20 years ago. So I would
Yeah.
say 20 to 30 years ago, because reptile keeping wasn't really getting popular until like the 90s and 2000s. Where even then though, husbandry was very bad. A lot of knowledge wasn't really accessible. Just styles of keeping, where I can describe it like rabbit pellets and newspaper, and
Yeah.
even if it is soil, it's like a very very low amount. People weren't utilizing the large volume, like how we kind of talk about now, or even just like the optimum options that you should have within your enclosure, right? And so going over some of those things, they may be very small, but they're a whole aspect of your entire enclosure, really, if you put them all together. And
Yeah.
yeah, so people are able to gather a ton from what we do, man, and it's really rewarding.
Yeah, man, it has been a fun year. We've had some interesting guests. I remember when we first got into it. I think we were like 4 or 5 episodes ahead.
Yeah,
we're like, this is gonna work out great. We're gonna
life
stay
has
ahead of
caught
it.
up to us, man. Shoot, the grasshopper stuff is taken off. The monitor things, I have a full house now, and babies
Mm-hmm.
typically with eggs, and so my stress load is definitely up there. Um, Alan's too. Alan's got more stuff too since we started the podcast as well, and like he's got like a whole Indo section now. So, um,
Yeah.
you know, uh, yeah, I really just have the Kimberleys and in the mix of all the mangroves. So they do pretty well. They do pretty well. But I've added a ton more coli since we first started as well. I think I added another, I don't
Yeah.
know, 4 or 5. Um, I recently sent that big female back to Michael that was supposed
Okay.
to check the killer that was supposed to check my mail, right? Um, but he actually for the first 3 weeks they were fine, and he wasn't having it. And he actually bit off the last 3 inches of her tail too.
Oh no.
Yeah, yeah. So she's the victim number 3 or 4 now. Um, yeah, yeah.
Oh
Yeah,
man.
okay. And what's crazy, right? So he's gotten used to the female that was in there with him, sort of originally, the one that he was locking up with, the one that he broke over, right? Broke over into her enclosure, and so he broke into there last night again, right? I kind of let him, so it's not really. For a while, I had it actually zip tied, like really zip tied up, where he couldn't get over there at all. Especially maybe month or two from the clutch that she laid not too long ago, right? So
Yeah.
she laid. I basically cut their access. Some people might disagree, some people might agree, but really, I don't want her to keep going because I'm not. I don't know what the scenario is, and then I also got in Michael Cole's. So the time frame, it's like what it was is I was trying to utilize that big female that Mike sent me to check my mail. At the same time, I could have ruined chances of breeding, and I probably did just because of how things. I barely sent that girl back last week, so the week that we're finishing up now, I think I sent her back on Tuesday or something like that. And just just the whole feng shui of the cage. Well, she really threw it off.
Yeah.
They would you know charge at each other through the glass. I'm sorry, through the mesh, and then even through the glass too, because I would be able to carry one and she'd lunge at the female while it's out, and really didn't allow me to just have them do their normal get up, of the two original pairs. So when people tell me, oh, I want to do a 1.2, that for Ackies, sure, maybe okay if your male isn't an egg eater and they get along and there's enough room, but for the mangrove stuff, I haven't had great success with the third wheel.
Yeah.
And that female, the extra female, threw off a whole lot, where I just wasn't getting the one-on-one instances with my male and the female. So yeah, that was crazy. I had at one point the male and the new big female ended up in the smaller female section, right? Because they got through somehow. And then the big female had the female that I want to breed in her mouth, like her head was wrapped around the ears, right? Yeah. And so I was like, oh man, no. So I took that female out, the smaller, lesser, subordinate one that ended up in the mouth of the other one. Took it off, washed it up, put her back inside her section, and then I zip tied everything, right? And then this is like super frantic, 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning type deal. I wake up every middle because most of my lamps, especially now, are on at nighttime, because it's just so hot in the day, where it'll flip offset the cages a lot, and so man, they were over there. She was whipping her ass, and my big male was just running around. And this cage is not very big at all for the female section. It's really just the nesting area cornered off, and then it goes up. Right. It is a pretty large nesting area, so she has a whole lot to do. Don't get me wrong, but it's a 3 by 2 foot tall whole nesting section, and then the cage goes up to 4 foot. So, yeah, and that was pretty nuts, man. I just shoot. I don't really want to touch my frantic guys too much. There's like a relationship now, where if I touch them, they don't do shit for 2 weeks, and yeah, and then they have this whole like frantic run around the cage every single time they see me, and then it slowly gets better. It's slow, That's what I try to do with the ones that that are they'll defecate right in front of you when you walk in the room, or they'll even regurge. That big male, sorry, he's not even big, but he's old. He's not young at all, but he's a good 5, 6, maybe even 7 years old. Michael said, yeah, he's definitely not like 1 or 2, and he's pretty frantic, super nuts. He won't take food from the tongs. I'll put it there, walk away, 5 minutes, he's over there eating, but he won't eat it from me at all. Even if I starve him for 2 weeks, yeah, he won't eat it. I just redid his cage today. When they first come in, don't get me wrong, this guy was kind of skinny, so I was just basically trying to watch his fecal matter really well, just so he could keep on the weight, and I wasn't just gonna throw another lizard in there, have her get sick, transfer more, you know what I mean? So just made sure that he was super hefty, coming into changing his closure. He's put on some weight, hydrated up a bunch, because there's a water pan for him to lay in.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's gotten a little chunky. I can see it in his face.
Nice.
Yeah. So I'm ready to toss in a girl with him because I don't want to really pick him up. I just want to see if another girl in his enclosure will make him crazy or make him like, you know, what I'd say like interested, I guess.
Have you noticed in your indicus, kind of across all the animals, do any of them like to hydrate differently? Like,
I
do
love
some like to?
water. Yeah,
Yeah,
they love water, but the drinking out of the cups, um, man, they've had to learn to do that. You know,
yeah,
yeah, they've
yeah.
had to learn to do drinking out of the cups. I have them because it's important to still have water around always. But sometimes like there's an injury or I don't want them mucking in the water too much, or sometimes their pads are a little pink because of all the moisture everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
I'll take them off of the water. Um, and it's also like festering water after a day, so it's kind of nasty. I let them dry up basically. I give them their water comes back though eventually. um, but they love to do the whole sit in a water dish, it's super hot and whatnot. And then they drink, and then I also, depends on who it is, but for the most part I spray their muzzles after feeding.
Yeah,
uh, yeah, it gets the stuff off. So man, Jody's so gung ho, right, on eating, and if it smells like food, it's going in his
it's
mouth.
food.
Yeah, it's so when they have like bits and pieces all over their face, Jody's just gonna go over and just yeah, he's a really, I don't know. I think it's because I never trained him. He's only know he only knows shiny things as
Right.
things that give me food. Even like the locks, right? Because they shine just like the tongs do.
Yeah.
When I even if I drop the lock in front of him, he'll like go over to it right away. And I'm like, dude, you'll die if you eat that, bro. But yeah, because we do a lot of I I've been training him lately the last 6-7 months with that toy you see me post about.
Yeah.
So this I don't know. I think this will be a good one for people to, I guess, try at home, but also to listen to too. They're really smart.
Yeah.
They're also kind of you know a little testy and really. Sometimes they don't think it's all about food, right? And when they're really hungry, it's definitely all about food. So
Yeah. Yeah. And that's something to bring up for the listeners too. When you're keeping animals in pairs or whatnot, groups, remember that, because if you don't feed your animals for a couple days, maybe that suits you in one way or the other, something you're trying to accomplish, but you got that food in there, the brain has shut off, the instincts kick in, and it's all about food. So animals that get together fine, all of a sudden they're, like Kai said, one's biting onto the other one's head, or it can just see or smell the food still in the mouth, and it's going to go try to get a little bit of that, so, or get that other animal to let go. So you have to just take that into account. I'm not saying feed every day either, because then you're just probably going to have fat animals at
yeah,
one point.
a little bit more often.
Yeah, they'll be fine. They will. So if you go on that side of things, animals won't be that aggressive towards food or going after food, but they're probably going to be fat and a little lethargic because of that also. So you've taken away that need, that instinct, kind of like, oh, I need to get that now, but you're adding in maybe another unhealthy factor. So do what I do and grab a broom, throw food to one animal, hit the other one with the broom as it comes running over, and
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I
I
don't
use
hit
a
them. I
little.
just,
I swat them.
yeah, yeah. They get all like, "How dare you swat me?" And then they kind of look at you and look at the other animal like, "Should I go back in for food?"
Yeah. I have a couple male. My Kimberleys are really good at it. It's like
Yeah,
when I just basically put a stop. I mean, it's not a stop sign, but I just put the tongs up and my hand up like a stop sign, right? I'm like, no, you just go over there. Right? I kind of shoo them away,
yeah,
and then they get it, and then they just hover over there waiting for food. And then my females are eating slowly, bit by bit, right?
right.
My girls are real picky right now. I don't know what it is. I think they're just getting into the whole thing. They were on a they were they basically just been coming out of winter time, and I've been feeding them up more, definitely more. More chicks and mice pieces and eggs and less grasshoppers and less other stuff. And they don't even really touch. They're bougie now. They don't even touch roaches and stuff anymore.
Ooh.
I tried to get them to touch the mealworms, and they were a little bit at first when we started to do the whole thing, but then it was like, oh, I only want to eat lizards or something like that. One of them was on a lizard strike for weeks, man. Some to the point where I had to go. I buy some like $100 worth or more, like because I went $100 worth was what I got from another guy, but like I spent and I bought full price at some PetSmart or Petco.
Yeah,
so, those add up. Yeah, it was just to get these lizards to eat and do their thing like how I want them to, because I don't know. It's like they just. I feel like they might be clamming up, or for the most part, just not eating like how I want them to. Yeah, it's been. Don't get me wrong; they ate like a day ago or two days ago, but I was kind of expecting them to be more eager and hungry. I've switched their lamps a little bit, as you know. I've kind of like done. To be honest, man, all the UV bulbs that I've been trying. Man, they're just not enough. Like, because that little bulb, the small, like even the ones from Amazon and even the ones from like Ryan and them, and they're just so tiny, and so it really just doesn't do a whole lot. It does takes up a socket, and then I can be producing heat with another bulb in that socket and balance out my thing. But then what I was doing was trying to apply UV and then have another bulb right next to it, and like that's a floodlight. Now, don't get me wrong, the surface temperature was fine, but dang, the whole rest of the enclosure was only 70 and 80 degrees. So ambiently, for people that are, have issues with heating right now or something like that, I needed to get that hot side up more. Definitely into the higher 90s, 100, 105, 110 degrees right underneath the lamp right there. And with not even with the the temperature gun. That for sure underneath that floodlight is 120, 130. But man, the rest of my enclosure just wasn't cutting. And I think that's what I have been able to nip in the bud. Alan said hi. I think I've been able to nip that in the bud. And I just added a whole another small halogen in there. Next to it, because a 45 watt, man, if it was a 60 watt, that would make more sense for me. And I may need to start ordering those because I don't. I really only use the 45 watts. I typically use two 45s next to each other in most of my enclosures.
Yeah.
And so right now, and I just did it earlier because I was trying to utilize the 9 watt that you gave me, right, which is a pretty decent sized bulb. It's really strong.
They're strong.
Like rhino iguanas or something like that, sunbakers, and I wasn't. It was going to change a whole lot of my enclosure. Now, if my enclosure was like maybe 5-6 feet tall and the basking spot was at the very bottom, then I can see that working. And I may have to change it if that's the case. But I take a whole lot of climbing space away though. That's the tough part, But I would have to put a 75 or 65 watt floodlight next to the 9 watt. Try to get at least 80 to 100 watts in there because that's what I know is going to heat my enclosure. I was only using 45s and then a small 3 watt, little UVB LED lamp, and that just wasn't cutting it. Yeah, and so that's what I might think of that caused me some issues as I'm adjusting with one of my girls. I don't know what's going on. The male's on her all the time. She's not too receptive. She's kind of getting pudgy. Hope she's just not, hopefully the heat will kind of get her up. I've been sunning them a little bit just to kind of get them perkier. They've had like 2 or 3 days in a row now where they're out when it's, 9, 10, 11, almost even noon. Once it's noon, they've had enough sunlight. I just bring them back in. And it's also already 100 degrees almost. So Yeah.
Man, oh, that's another thing. Yeah, so this little heat spell that happened this last
It just
couple
happened.
days,
Yeah, we're
that
just living it, dude.
that threw everything off. I had to rush over a couple times. Now I've been setting some things up. I guess something I'll share too with everybody is setting some things up so that I can check basic things from my phone. I'm waiting on Ryan. You know, he's got a system out there that I'm waiting to see what it's about. But I did go ahead and get one of those
Smile,
little
bro.
one of those little Govee temperature
Oh,
things, and honestly, it works pretty good. It works great for it, you know, temperature and humidity, and I can see it throughout the day. Um, so I have that in the middle of the warehouse right now, just because temperatures are getting warmer. I also went and bought one of the Wise cameras to kind of get a feel for how things work, and got it set up.
yeah.
So I can see the advantages.
You jumped in. You actually jumped and took the bullet and got all that stuff hooked up, huh?
Yeah. So I got it hooked up, just the one camera and the one Govee thing. But just to test them out, see if this is even like in a direction I really wanted to go in, and it definitely is. I'll say that.
Yeah, you definitely get to see stuff there now, right?
Yeah, I don't have to go over in person to check a temperature thing on a wall somewhere. I can just go to
Yeah.
my phone, and you know, a few of those temperature gauges, like one in or I would put one in any incubator that I'm running in there. One downstairs, of course, one upstairs, and maybe something like one to test out a walk-in enclosure or something on a bigger scale if I needed to, just to make sure. Because I find out as soon as I add something, if I add another cage or if I add another row of baby setups, you know, it messes with the temperature in the whole building.
Yeah.
So the temperature and the humidity. So I gotta make everything work together in a certain way. And like those last 3 days was a good indication of what summer might be like, because right now in the middle of the day, my temperature is about a 2 degree difference than what it is outside. So if it's 90 outside, my inside got 88 degrees. Now I'm okay with the temps spiking a little bit, and it reached 88 in the incubator, but it was only for about an hour and a half, and then it falls back down to its normal. So I'm not too worried about that. But consistently, like if we get into summer and it's happening like that, that could start to be an issue, especially on days that get hotter than 90 degrees. We start getting these 108-degree days, then look out. But I have some backups already in place, like that portable swamp cooler. Basically, is what it is. Some other fans just to move air around. It does cool the building off a bit. And then future stuff that I've talked to my neighbor at the warehouse is a HVAC guy, putting in the one of those whole house fans, basically an attic fan, so that I can hopefully hook it up also to some way on my phone, some app or something. Hit that button on my phone, and it would pull all that hot air out of the attic and suck it out of there. So a few ideas I'm messing around with. There's always adjusting the bulbs in the building, you know, to go down to either a lower temperature or basking in the morning and then shutting it off around noon, letting them ride till, you know, I don't know, 7, 8 o'clock, maybe hit them with another. I can, with these devices, these smart plugs and everything, I can set it up in a certain way where I can kick it back on for a few hours.
Yeah.
But it'll all take that adjusting and playing with. But if I can do it all from my phone, then I can somewhat take some of my life back instead of being there all the time, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
running
Yeah.
around with a squirt bottle and a fan.
I'm so lucky that I can do everything. Like I can just walk over to it. It's the next room over down through the kitchen.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. That's I'm so blessed to have that ability. I can wake up in the middle of the night while I'm gonna go to the restroom, and then man, just take a peek, see what's going on. So a lot of times it's work. It's like, all right,
Mm-hmm.
you gotta do this, and it's something going on, or it's everybody's awake. Remember I said that I have my lamps on at nighttime. So at midnight, they're peaked and they're hot. They're ready to eat.
Yeah.
Yeah. So by dinner time, I pull out stuff to be defrosted, and then it sits, kind of by a heat lamp where it basically defrosts a little bit faster. The room is already 80 something 90 degrees, so it's there's no problem with that thing defrosting.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then closer to the lamp, it's probably by 100. Um, yeah, and then I gotta feed everything at nighttime and get everything going. I'm lucky to have everything right there, man. I'm actually due. I'm due to do what you just mentioned right now with the whole. That's why I asked you the other day about it when I sent you the picture of it in an incubator tub, right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and so yeah, I have to be more. Really, I've just been going by feel on a lot of things, but I just
Yeah.
nowadays it's so hard to just go on feel, and there's more precision involved, and you want to be exact on the temperature. So I ended up going to Home Depot and getting a crap ton of batteries. I bought like maybe 12 of those Accurite I'm sorry, the thermometers, right?
Yeah.
I just set them everywhere, in every single enclosure, and on the top, the bottom. Just so I know, because now I'm transitioning out of winter. My winter time, I feed a whole lot less, and things aren't cranking as much, right? And they're actually still kind of doing their thing in wintertime too. And so, not the Kimberleys, but a lot of the mangroves are. Um, and yeah, man, it's something that I gotta get more in tune with, especially the incubator stuff, because like right now, I only have the Kimberly eggs in there, and I had some coli stuff that was sitting around for a little while, and then they ended up going bad. So
Yeah.
I don't think they were fertile to begin with. They just looked good. They didn't, they look decent. They're not deflated, kind of plump, whitish, off white, not perfectly pearl, but yeah. And then so I got to get that going. I have a couple enclosures, so it's not like I do it old school where I turn off everything and I'm always switching light bulbs out, because that's what we had to do when we were younger, man. We
Yep.
didn't have it was a go. It was a more of a guesstimate, right?
Yep.
And it's like, okay, if it has a temperature controller, which is very important, which is they were still 75, 100 some bucks with them, for like an ESU temp controller with a dial, right? And
Yep.
I still have those. I still use those too. I'm just like I kind of said, I'm from like an older era of keeping, even though we're still kind of young. It's like we've been keeping for so long. This is all we had back then, and we just chose 100-watt red or 100-watt white. That was it, right? And we
Yep.
went just that. But now it's like, yeah, I have specific bulbs for specific seasons, and you go in from the, let's say if I was using 75-watt or 100 watts, which I don't even use. I don't have 100-watt in this house at all. I might have like one or two. That's if like I really need it in a super cold time frame, but I just balance it out better now, because the
Yeah.
reason why I don't, it's not like I hate them, right? Don't get me wrong. It's just the way we learned how to use lamps nowadays, and our size of reptiles, and we're not no longer trying to make a tiny small spot. Not only is it not great as far as gradient goes, but you end up with burns and all this other stuff,
Right.
right? And so yeah, we try to balance it out now. So I have 45 and 50 watts and 75-watt at the max, and I keep them coupled next to each other. So even in an 8-foot enclosure, which you would normally take about 150 to 200 plus watts to heat up well, right? Um,
Mm-hmm.
and not even that great, just okay, Um, you now I have several bulbs that match up to that one bulb that you were using back then, and then I can space out heat better. If it's such a
Yeah.
giant enclosure, I can have 145 on this one always going, or 175 or whatever you feel like always going. And then maybe at nighttime it switches to a black bulb that's not that much colder. It's just keeping the balance, right? And so the balance on the other side, the left side, if the opposite side, basically, right? That's where my normal full on bank of lights would be together. Yeah.
I like, I know I've mentioned this before, but one of the reasons for using two like 50-watt bulbs over one 100-watt is simply if that 100-watt runs out and for whatever reason you don't see your animal for a day or two, you're just busy with life or kids or whatnot, that animal's without any sort of heat. Now, even if you plug two brand new bulbs in at the same time, there's a lot of times they don't run out at the same time. So at least your animal has something. You can look in there. Oh, okay. You still
Like I
got
did
one
today.
going. Yeah. Yeah, you got one going, replace one, you're probably gonna have to keep an eye on the other. It's just a, a little bit of a fail safe to a certain degree. And it saved my butt a couple times, I know, or at least I don't think I got close to the point where it harmed an animal, but I really appreciate that I had those two bulbs in there.
It's better on
Um,
the fixture. It's better on
yeah.
the take of your whole house and the outlet, right?
Yep.
Yeah, it's less damaging or heating on the material that you're building with, right? If it's exposed to it or whatnot, because
Absolutely.
most of us just hook it right up to the wood.
And
Um,
if an animal grabs onto it, whether it's in a dome or just the bulb,
yeah, they're so low now.
yep, 50 watts is a lot different than 100 watts.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, a lot of times I can reach in and just kind of, it's hot fingers, but still get that 50
yeah.
watt out of there.
You
100 watt, you
can
can burn
palm
some
it.
things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those
um,
BR30s and even the 45 and 50 watts, you can technically unscrew them, carry them to the bulb and just drop it in without, burning yourself. But man, if it was a 150-watt spot or
yeah,
whatever, that time, yeah, you're burning.
you're
You're
going to
gonna
get some
burn yourself.
burns. Um, Gosh, man, there's a lot going on. And it's,
Yeah,
I,
man, I have a lot of, I don't know if they're not doubts. It's just, it's early in the season and I've already hatched out a coli this year. I can literally just kick my feet back and learn my animals some more. You know,
no, you
just
can't. No, you can't because okay, that's
yeah,
true. Everything you're saying is true, but you always, like me, you always want, you can accomplish more, it's
yeah.
possible. So you
I gotta
strive for
learn
it.
my animals more. That's
Yeah.
what I was saying. Like I've kind of like hatched one out. It's not like I was I'm not at a race anymore. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm in the ballpark now. So let's just refine my game a little bit, see how I can do better. I basically switched over to in floor nesting completely for most of the enclosures now. So this year will be different on nesting for
Yeah.
sure. Right. And so they're in tune to it. It is a lot more work, but they're in tune. I have to turn a nest tonight and I have to check two nest bins and yeah, man, I got females just kicking dirt everywhere. And it's always good to kind of investigate and make sure that they're either hooked up right, they're not too dry because you haven't checked them in a little while or something. Yeah, it's a lot of work. It's basically tossing around 1,000 pounds of worth of soil or whatever, all in the time where each bin I think has 4, maybe 5 bags of soil in it, right? Or the
Yeah.
volume. So that's
Yeah.
200-300 pounds already, right? And then the soil that goes in there, which is maybe half parts. I use more sand nowadays, but
Yeah.
it isn't 1 to 1. It's half part. And then the water. That's gallons of water. Not it's like I'm just chugging in pitchers and then I
Hmm.
turn it and I if it's the consistency is not great, I grab some more pitchers and then I'm turning it and yeah, so I'm like playing in a sandbox, having having an asthma attack because it's dusty.
Oh man, them black nasty snot
Black boogers.
boogers
Yeah, man. Those
because you're breathing in all that. They're in there
yeah.
for days too. Is
I actually cough up stuff too. It's like, yeah. So all right, here's a trick. All right, the mask isn't gonna work because the dust is so fine.
right.
Okay, so it basically gets right underneath there. You're gonna get it in there anyways. What I do is put a wet paper towel underneath the mask, put that over my face, so it actually catches a lot of that dust prior to hitting your face. That's just a
Here,
trick that I learned.
I bit. I just bit the bullet, and I ordered something I had used before for some
A
construction
painter's
type of thing.
mask.
But it's the 3M like respirator mask where you got the canisters. and
Yeah.
stuff. And I just bit the bullet and went and bought one, or I ordered it. So, because it was just another day of black boogers, and I was like, I'm gonna die of the black lung or
It's
something.
not healthy. That'll kill you.
Right, right.
If you're in a okay, here's a they're relatable. I have chicks that I buy, and they're just normal chicks. But what I do is I defeather them, so that way I'm not breathing in those feathers when I'm doing stuff.
Yeah,
It's actually helped out a lot with the dust and my whole overall allergies with dealing with that, right? Because I have asthma and I'm technically killing myself, but I'm not going to quit. So, it's like I have to make the soil better, right? I can't ever let it get too nasty and dusty, things like that. So there still is roughage from the crawfish and the rats and mice that they eat and the eggs and all that other stuff, right? But I got to get rid of all these feathers, man.
yeah.
And that'll kill you. So I really, advise that you kind of do it with the mask. You're not just all in there full dust. And man, how we used to keep back then, where after a few weeks, it's just it's just dust and bedding and poop. It's bad. So everybody, you guys can probably smell an image right now of what I'm talking about. If you've been a keeper that you've been keeping for so long, and this is something that we've all working at pet stores, volunteering, even having your own setups. That's why bioactivity is so good in the bottom.
Yes. Any kind of bioactivity, some cage cleaners. I've even thrown a couple. I know that like some dubias are going to burrow in the dirt and some of these things. I don't care anymore. Just let them go. Throw some more bugs in there. I've even stopped messing with the spiders as much.
The spiders are kind of cool. It's like, hey, it's like a super ecosystem in here now.
Yeah.
You have a predator.
The problem is they breed so much. And I posted a pic. I think I already mentioned it, but I had like a whole, what do they call them, like a sling or whatever.
Yeah.
All these little baby spiders, and they had made a web on one of the domes.
Yeah, I thought you showed me that.
Yeah, like 300 degrees under there. I'm like, how do you things live? You're not natural. That's not normal.
Yeah. I don't know if I told you. So I chop a lot of my food, even for the adults. I basically make it so what it is it's so they can eat faster. And they can just take down little pieces and they can fit more. But man, I've had to do this once where I've left like maybe dime-sized pieces of food, right? And I actually saw this spider that's not a terrestrial spider. It was a full-on web-hanging spider, right? Come down, pick up a piece, and take it back to its web. Dude, that was the gnarliest thing I've ever seen in my entire life, man. That was a trip. And I fed tossed bugs into webs, and that's we've done that a million times, but that was actually really cool. And I try to leave that spider in there. To be honest, one time when I was doing some furnishings and changing stuff, man, I don't know where that spider went. So.
Yeah.
Rest in peace to that guy. That guy was cool, man.
I looked inside the other day when I was digging up Kimberly eggs. The inside of the Kimberly cage is painted black. It was just because I wanted to see. So there's different colors you can get, but the black paint that I was using is like $50 cheaper for the 5-gallon bucket. So I wanted to see how it works, see if it was worth it, or if I just stick with the other color. The problem is those corners, or the upper corners of that cage, get kind of dark.
Yeah.
And so I didn't pay any attention to it, and I've got my head all the way in there, and I see these spider webs.
Little crack in the corner. Yeah.
So I shined my phone flashlight up there, and sure enough, there's this black widow up there, and it looked like just a bone graveyard, but it was the little dried out, crickets and roaches, and I was like, oh my god,
yeah. There's a man. Okay, so I recently got a shipment of leaves from a really good friend of mine, and this is not any fault of his because I asked for it. But dang, dude, he sent some leaves, right? And man, they had so many spiders in them now that I didn't even really realize. And shoot, I should have washed those things or baked them or something. But which is something I would never normally do. But now I kind of like think, damn, I didn't want those things in my house, but now they're everywhere
Oh
almost.
man,
Yeah. I see
like
them running all the time.
arachnophobia.
I'm just like, yo, this is a lot. And I just vacuumed that ceiling the other day, and
Yeah,
there's a ton more flies there now. It's like one set leaves and another one just replaces them. And yeah, it's annoying. I'm at the point right now where I can't do it myself in a day because I would probably die. But I was gonna have people literally just come and just vacuum the whole thing so well, like immaculately.
yeah.
Yeah,
I
just
walk around with something, some object now in front of me at the warehouse. It could be tongs, it could be a broom. I just put it out in front of me because I'm tired of getting spider webs all over my face and all over my hair, just on the back of my neck.
yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, I stick it out in front of me and just walk through the warehouse because half the time I still have the lights off. If I'm just in there real quick, I'm not really looking around, and all of a sudden I got a face full of spider webs. It gets that bad right now during the springtime, and
Yeah, it does. It's the bioactivity that's cool, but man, if you let it take off, it's not.
right. I just
Yeah,
get pissed when I start opening up the roach bins and I see they got into the roach bins
yeah.
and they're down there eating for free.
Man, I
No.
actually have as you were talking about for free. I had so underneath my little my drill that I've had forever. I actually just retired this thing and threw them away the other day. But I had this drill for like 12 years, right? It finally
Uh huh.
just kind of gave out. But underneath it was a spider, and it grabbed this grasshopper and it was dragging it back there. And I was like, "Nah, bro, this is mine, right?" Took it from him, and I kind of smashed him. And I was like, "Oh, dude, like that guy has probably been there just feasting for however long. It
Yeah.
was a fat thing, yeah." And I took it, and I was like, "Man, if I just grabbed under there, I'll probably get bit one day." So I just took this thing and I bought myself a whole new drill with the bag and everything yesterday.
Good
Yeah, man,
stuff, man.
it's freaking nuts, man. With the with the add-ons that we're not expecting, like these buffalo beetles. Oh my god! And I thought that I was actually doing myself some service by making these little cups.
Uh
Man, the
huh.
buffalo beetles came back in a week. They were back. They were
They're
yeah.
crazy, huh?
They're so nuts. Yeah, and I actually have to. What I do now is I actually have this bin that's just sitting there, and what I take is all my logs, and I just dust,
Yeah.
shake them, and I get as many buffalo beetles that I can get out in a minute shake or something like that, and I just douse them with water and let them drown. I'm so mad at them. Yeah, they're just annoying. I know they work hard because I
Yeah.
don't have fecal matter everywhere. My soil turns. They do their thing. It's a whole ecosystem. And so that's why I'm not stressing it too much. But man, they're so annoying to see. They're not attacking my animals. They're not.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, they
They're
don't
just
even attack
everywhere
them.
in there.
Yeah, they're just everywhere. Um, and I know these motherfuckers fly from cage to cage. I know they do, or they walk up the traction anywhere and just get to another cage. I know
Yeah.
it. Yeah,
They
they
do that
just
little like flutter fly,
yeah
just enough to
chase
get to the next cage.
they chase the smell of like decomp, or let's say
Hmm.
there's something sitting in the that wasn't eaten. Yeah,
And they can eat once and live for a year.
yeah. Now let's say if I have this I'll accidentally smear, or the monitor will smear blood on the logs, or even egg yolk on the
Yeah.
logs. Yeah, they're all over that in like minutes, and
Yeah.
it's gone. The wood's all shaved off because they wanted to eat it.
Yeah. Yeah. They can be a problem. I have a problem with them in sometimes in like smaller monitors, baby monitors is where I'm more concerned
Yeah, me
rather
too.
than
I'm
my
scared that
big
they're just
guys.
gonna eat one, and I'll see one in the corner, and it's like,
Yeah.
dang, those
Oh,
things just
they'll make quick work of. I've had a monitor. Of course, as we've been keeping talked about, some of these monitors that have died. Buffalo beetle will clean out a monitor in a day if you have enough of
yeah,
them in there.
yeah,
They're already under the skin to some point as soon as something dies. Um, and even I thought some animals were eating pinks that I was leaving in there. No,
yeah,
them buffalo beetles were getting to that stuff.
yeah.
And I come back the next day and think, oh yeah, they ate. Why aren't they gaining any weight? Well, the buffalo beetles were getting to it. Um, but yeah, man, let's see what else is going on out there. I don't know if you saw it, but The other day, I'll touch on this real quick. Mike, over at Mike's Monitors.
Oh yeah, sulfurs.
Yeah, he got a clutch of these sulfurs. These sulfurs are cool looking. Sulfurs are just big animals, but they're awesome.
In the normal, not in the normal world, but in the I guess in the entertainment business, right? How everybody wants to be like Mike, we definitely have our own.
Yeah,
man. It's I think every species just takes off. Hopefully, he gets those similis to go too. That'd be amazing, man.
Absolutely.
I think he's.
And no, I can't give up mine, Mike. I'm sorry.
Yeah, everybody has them. I told John, I was like, bro, don't sell these. Like,
yeah,
I'm just buying them and they're gone. And it's like he's now keeping them, trying to hang on to as many as he can.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he has promising numbers on girls by looking at some of them. Yeah,
that's what they look. If I'm judging the kind of some
two or something.
I'm trying to develop a look for, and it seems to be consistent for the peacocks, the Timors, and the Similis. There's a certain look. I don't want to say too much or get too ahead of myself, but it does look like the females, especially young females, are a lot smaller than males. Males mature a lot quicker. They do get more of a broad head, but the females' torso region in particular seems like it is a longer, kind of similar in Ackies.
That's in a lot of monitors too.
Right.
Just longer.
If you don't have one of each, like a mature animal and a mature male and mature female, it's hard to see these things. So if you have two males, you're like, well, do I have a pair? You might not, because they look the same. We're two females. But when you have a known animal next to another known animal, especially if they're more mature, maybe past that first year into their second, third year, it becomes a lot easier to tell from what I'm seeing. And then the males definitely have those hemipenal bulges down at the base of the cloaca, and you go in there, and so far it hasn't let me down. I've been able to, I haven't had one of those pop out an egg, or vice versa. One that doesn't have those, basically those have been the ones that have laid eggs. Not Similis, of course, but from the recent Timors and the peacocks in the past. So I think it's pretty reliable. And if that's the case, it looks like 2.1. So for myself, but I want everybody to get these going because we need them just in case they don't come back in, Yeah. And once we get some clutches, then maybe there can be some moving around of adults, or especially if I have an extra male, maybe I can get a couple clutches paired from both. Or sired by both males, and then maybe do some switching around. But we'll get to that. First things first. Got to get them in. Got to get some eggs. Got to hatch them out of the eggs. And they're pretty cool.
Figure out how to do that more than once.
Yes. Yeah. I need to get them on a system. And the thing is that they're not just a black and white Timor peacock monitor. It seems they have a bit of a different personality. They're a little more bold in my experience. And the way they throat up, they have a heftier throat area, more like, I wouldn't even know what to compare them to.
Like an Argus.
Kind of, yeah, like that true Indo-Argus throat. They do the head turn and the throat up, where it just gets out there. Where the Timors and peacocks are just gone. They're not going to worry about that. And if they do try to throw it up, it's real quick. It's not, they don't hold it, and they suck it in real quick, and they act all twitchy, where the Similis will kind of, square up on you like a little miniature Argus.
Pretty animal too. It's a shame because they're literally black and white. I mean, there's some tones that you won't be able to really pick up on the camera, but they're a gorgeous animal. Yeah.
Oh, let me touch on that real quick. So I think there is one of two things going on. I think I might have touched on it before. We either have two types of Similis that were recently kind of reclassified that have come in, or maybe it's I don't know. There's just not enough to look at. known animals to look at right now, but that males might have a different look than females do. But I think there's some more work definitely to be done. Or there's just, a collector went and collected these type of animals from this place, and the next place over, they look, not next place over, but next trapper over, on the same island. It's a big place. They just have a little bit of a different look to them. So a lot of stuff to figure out. But yeah, excited about that. Congratulations, Mike. I did surprise me. So he said he was getting rid of basically his other dwarf monitors.
All his Ackies, right?
All of them except for the Sims. The Ackies, Kims, Kings, I think, Gil and I, Pills, all of those. So if you're looking for something, go hit Mike up. But
Mike's only working with the big boys now.
Yeah, well, he said something important too, is that he's been a slave to these lizards for a little while now, and he wants
to have 100 plus babies at a time.
Yeah,
that's nuts.
And it's true. A larger water monitor, some of these larger monitors, you can actually feed up pretty good, and then you can not feed them for a little while, and you're fine. Some of these smaller animals, not so much. They need to eat a little more frequently.
Yeah. And insects mostly too.
Yeah.
Not even like mine. I'll feed like the Kims, right? For instance, I can always feed the Kims, the grasshoppers, and some mice, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But you see, there has to be the insects involved. I can't just feed them straight mice and chicks and stuff like that. They're just they won't even eat it. It's starting off. They want to chase something. Now it is true that Kimberly's love to baby Kims love to take on more than what you think they can handle, like a large cricket for a tiny baby. Right? They'll do it and they'll actually eat it. It's like you can't really do that to the Kims when they first start off with mice and stuff. But with the baby mangroves and the other stuff that I've hatched, it's mostly just mangroves actually, but a few different types, right? They can eat chopped pinkies and eggs and chicks all mixed up in this mush, right? That you want to vary their diet, but still, they'll eat that all day, every day, regardless. No problem. And they'll, I can switch it up with fish and sure, but it's still what I would say an easy access feeder. Now, I do grasshoppers, so I can't really say that I only love that stuff, right? But for my monitors and the big stuff, it is so convenient to go to the freezer, grab out a handful of crawfish, a handful of shrimp, and a handful of chicks, and be done. I don't have to order bugs and have them die on me or stink or do that other. Yeah, I think that's also a smart move because, man, feeding those things.
Yeah.
Feeding Kimberly's is tough. I actually have a issue right now. I don't know if I talked about it earlier, but it's it's just they're trying to get them healthy basically while not trying to make them too fat at the same time, making sure the calcium intake is good. And shoot, I'm trying to breed them. I hope I'm not going to kill them. Yeah.
They're just throwing you for a curve, man. And I think there's something to be said. I've had this conversation with a lot of other people. You get these animals, they reach that certain age, kind of like a 2-year age, where their habits kind of change. They change something up on you. I'm kind of going
they're older. I think mine are now 4 years old. Yeah, because I had them before I moved to Southern California. I've been here already like good 2 or 3 years. So I started breeding them when they were like 18 to 20 months. I didn't really start off really young. Also, I obviously didn't have any males then. I thought one of my girls was a male for the longest time. So she's double the size, younger, and double the size of the female that I have now. That is a regular producer for me.
Yeah, man. There's my Tristis are doing that game with me. So last year I could count on some things. We were kind of talking about this. I know Matt Kosman's also having some issues. They're just funny. Sometimes you will swear that they laid, and then you go digging in there, you find nothing, and so you're like, oh well, I missed it. And a week later they lay. but you don't catch it for another month because they don't get
Every
fat for another month.
every 2 to 3 months. I'm sorry, every 2 to 3 clutches, they trick me like that. They
Yeah,
always, yeah, they're digging and digging and digging and digging. All right, that's why are you digging? There's no other reason really. Sometimes, right?
right,
Other than that, females don't really dig a whole lot unless they need to, and unless they're expecting stuff, or
right.
maybe it is hot as heck and they need to get to somewhere, that's a lot cooler. Those are other reasons I would see them going down there. But yeah, man, I don't have them doing too much digging unless it's right around laying time. Yeah.
Yeah, they're throwing me off right now. So maybe she changed her preferences too. So I'm gonna switch her that Tristis. Actually,
Yeah.
both sets of Tristis. I'm going to switch to some whole cage nesting instead of the nest box. Nest box have been working for the Tristis, but all my clutches so far have been in the nest boxes. But yeah, it doesn't seem to be the way. So I'm just going to change it up and see if they have some different preferences now. Maybe that's what's needed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
That's a tough part because you just assume, and then they want something different, or I don't
right.
know. Yeah. It's
Ackies are so far, they're pretty stable in their habits. So thank God for them. If they started changing things up on me, I think I'd freak out. But um, yeah, there's a few of those that throw me off. And those Kims, they are, uh, their
yeah,
habits are weird.
yeah.
They're
Their
little
habits are really
machines
weird.
too.
Now that mine are older, they basically only eat. They've been kind of a little picky lately, so I don't know what it is. I've been giving them more heat and trying to sun them, but maybe the girls are just going through their whole thing. The males are still eating. They're kind of
Yeah,
they're doing fine. Yeah, just my the whole reason with this transition right now with the bulbs and me ordering bulbs and trying new bulbs out. Maybe not have been the best idea to try it out during the switch, but it might as well get it over with so that way I can figure out if I want to use it or not.
hmm
Um, and yeah, I gotta, I just put back 2 heat bulbs and just called it a day, and rather than trying to find another thing. Now, another option I can use is going back to the Mega Ray and, having it turn off and on and stuff like that, which is not really a problem, and then have another bulb coupled next to it. But yeah, it's just, I don't know. I'm gonna see how these 2 floodlights do and see if it makes up enough basking spot because the Mega Ray isn't very strong. The 70 watt that I have,
yeah,
it
yeah.
doesn't penetrate like how the other ones do, and then the other ones are just so much wattage that I don't want to use them. So, um, yeah, that's. I wish the perfect bulb, and whoever's out there maybe listening, the perfect bulb that I want to get is like a very strong 50 watt floodlight that's also a UVB bulb. Man, that'd be great.
Yeah,
That'd be great.
if you could. No,
Yeah.
I'm in agreement with that. It would also, I don't know if this is going to happen, but with now LED UVB bulbs, would it be possible, just like they have dimmable LED bulbs out right now, would it be possible to make UVB dimmable so that you could turn them up or turn them down so that you could almost hand dial, the strength that you want in those UVB bulbs? That would be amazing. Now, of course, that comes not all together with a heat bulb because you'd burn the whole thing out. But um, I think for me, I'm still doing okay with the smaller LED bulbs that you had mentioned on most of the like the dwarf stuff, even the tree monitors, next to a basking bulb, and I'm trying them out anyways. I've shared my feelings about them before, so it's there.
With your nine
Um,
watt, with the 9 watt though, you're using that only in the taller setups right now, right?
yeah, the 9 watts I've only used in the walk-ins because they do throw a lot of UV. Um, so those are a little farther away. I don't have them right up, but the smaller, I think they're 3 or 4 watts. I have those in the tree monitors and a few of the other dwarf setups. But yeah, I think a larger dimmable LED where you could control the UV output off of a dimmer would be the next logical step. I would assume you can turn up that intensity. You're still turning up like a light wave, so you can turn it down. But I'm not an engineer, so
Yeah.
Ryan, let me know if you're listening. Is that a possibility? Are you already working on it? Send those. I need some. But yeah, man. Let's see. I'm trying to think what else is going on. A year, man. A lot has happened in a year.
In a year of hatched out mangroves, more mangrove stuff, coli stuff, Kimberly stuff. I don't know. It's yeah, it's just now it's just trying to repeat that stuff this year. Really,
Yeah.
I have some eggs. Clutches didn't do too great. They just didn't. They weren't all fertile, but that's okay. I'll take my numbers, even if it's just a few.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just get them on the board and uh, work for more, work for better, and that's it. Yeah,
I have.
I kind of put my Kimberleys through, the learning curve, right, of learning how to keep them. And, at one point I got like, they ended up getting like bumblefoot on the adults. And man, that was a year's worth of antibiotics. They would heal over, but kind of stay infected still, like a lesion or something like that. And then I peel them, they'd scab over, but then that'd grow back. It's like, wow, it's like, it's like a white pus that grows in there,
Mm-hmm.
right? And yeah, I had to keep a whole lot differently. They were so dry for a long time, and yeah, man, I'm trying to get them back onto the ball now. Get a nice, learning soil better for them. Not just a nest bin, but the whole enclosure, right? And
Right.
so I have sand, and I have a bunch of sand, and then I cut it with a little bit of moist soil, and then I add it back to it, and then I kind of want this consistency, and I let the surface dry. But before, man, I was just using whatever.
I hit you up, Kai. I have that one Kimberly male that has it. Um, all of them have been kept the same. None of the other ones have it. So it throws me. It's like, okay, well, why does this one have it and not
Yeah,
the other ones? And it leads me to believe that somehow this is talking out of my butt, but I think maybe it's like something that gets into the bloodstream somehow, like a ongoing infection that can just a reoccurring infection that pops up. But heck, if I know, all I do now is if I have to wet down the dirt, I actually take him out, put him in a bucket, and
yeah,
I wet down the dirt. I let it dry for a little bit and then put him back in
yeah,
because if I put them back in on wet stuff, they get all aggravated. Those same areas get aggravated again.
yeah,
The
yeah.
rest of them, not a problem. So it kind of that inconsistent problem is I think the
Yeah,
worst kind.
yeah.
You can't pinpoint why it's happening to one and not the other. Um,
Maybe he sleeps there.
yeah, it might be something as simple as that. He's the most dominant of the two males. Maybe he's just out prowling around more in the open. I noticed the other one will sometimes climb the wall a little bit, and he'll sleep kind of hanging off the wall. Um, where this one, he's kind of more on the floor area and prowling and walking around. Um, but then the females, they're always kind of tucked in something. They don't get it either. So I don't know, man. I will say, as far as injuries and stuff, it's been an interesting year for that. That black tree that had the huge swollen elbow, it's all the way down now, except for actually the elbow joint is now a hard knot and it doesn't bend at the elbow. But the animal uses its hand again. It has kind of like this. It looks like it's swimming with one arm, but it gets around the cage fine now. It's not dragging it next to its side
Wow,
anymore.
that's crazy. That's
Yeah,
like gout in one arm.
something like that, or maybe it's a joint problem. Um, I wouldn't be surprised. Initially, I thought maybe it broke its arm somehow, but I'm wondering if it got its arm caught in something, freaked out, twisted around, and like tore up that joint. And I, I don't know. There was no exterior like damage that I could see or tell. There was no
Yeah,
bones sticking out, nothing like that. But it was swollen all the way up from the hand all the way into the shoulder. kind of into that, what we would consider a pectoral area. It was starting to swell in that area, but now it's all gone down except for like a little nugget on its elbow. And man,
Yeah.
other than that, all the other ones seem to be looking fine.
Since mine are all like caged differently now, right? I just wasn't just throwing them into the fire, sort of like I was before, just expecting it to hit or miss. Now I'm introducing them through a little tunnel or an access hole, if you will, right? So that has been tamed. That area has been all right. I can't just freaking fling him in there because
Mhm.
he's so frantic. The girls are frantic. They're basically gonna be like Tasmanian devils running around and just
Oh
yeah.
man.
So the icebreaker and everything like that is now helped out a lot. But man, even when that is okay and they're not just meeting a stranger or meeting someone that they don't like in their territory, and then they have to figure out if they're good or not, fight them, wrestle them. This is more like, all right, you live there, I've lived here for a while, and I'm trying to mate now, but or I'm going over and this is the wrong time to go over, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've had that. And so I've had one male rip off tails of a couple different females that I've been trying to pair up, and he's bent another one that's not exactly broken, but when you look down, it just basically kinks.
Yeah.
And there's a whole notch missing, like if you were to remove a scute from an alligator or a crocodile or something like that. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's healed over, but the damage has been done, and it looks you can't really tell unless you're really looking at it, but. Um, yeah, man, I've had some stuff I've had to patch up, and it sucks because it's expensive too, man, and it's also time consuming and it's stressful, super stressful. Sets you back
Yeah.
so much, yeah. Sets you back time, sets you back with the female and you have bonded with her, and then their frantic mode. It's like their levels are just so high on alert, right?
Yeah.
Um, that
Because they
that
got bit, they're injured, they changed.
Yeah, and then not even just that, just me grabbing them, rinsing them
Oh,
off, freaking sitting there with like, a whole gallon of iodine and water, slowly pouring it over them. So, like, yeah, that part, and me having to do that, and I'm like, you know, kind of irritated that I have to do this because it's like, damn, let's just leave each other alone. So I'm just doing it and rinsing it over the sink, and they're obviously hated. They're biting me or scratching me and stuff like that. I'm just like, yo, I have to do this, or you're not gonna heal, girl. Um, yeah, man, it's nuts. One girl now, she looks so. It's like the missing part of her tail doesn't even. It's like, uh, you're not missing anything. I don't think you're missing anything anymore.
yeah.
Yeah, it's like she's adapted to missing that part of her. It's not a whole lot, but still, I would say a couple inches is a good size.
Yeah.
And so at one point it was just like, dang, he just chopped your tail off or something. But now it's like, all right, you don't look too bad at all. You kind of look tough.
Battle worn.
Yeah.
I had those the Dorianus that were together for a while, and then I noticed both of them had kind of tail nips. Nothing bit off, but both had like debris sticking to their tails, kind of like I'd say a third up from the end of the tail. And so I've separated them. But one of them, it seems like it keeps opening up, like almost like buffalo beetles got into it a little bit and made that perfect round hole. So
Yeah.
I had to clean out that cage, set it up different, and I think it's doing fine now. But with keeping the cage more sterile and dry and everything, these last couple days of heat hit that I was talking about, and I went in there to look at that animal when that little temperature reading was saying it was 85 inside. So that's the ambient in the room is 85. The lights are still on in his cage. He's in the corner with his face up in the corner, just close-eyed, stressed to all hell. So I'm gonna have to. I just turned the light off in that cage.
Yeah.
But kind of after we're recording today, I got to go over there and get him upstairs with the rest of the Indo stuff because there's the air conditioner up there. But I realized how quick that heat can stress them out like that. And the rest of the Australian stuff all around it, because they're all down there too, they're happy as can be.
Yeah.
Perfect. And this guy's in the corner like I'm dying. So yeah, got to treat him a little different. So again, got to move him upstairs, keep that Indo stuff together, kind of get off the everything's Australian mentality.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I'm glad
it's a hard one, man. It's a hard one when your mind is like already on 24 species or something.
Yeah.
And then these guys are all right. It's just less.
Yeah. Take it down 10 degrees. But yeah, it's a good little lesson. I'm glad we got this little heat wave. It was almost like a little tester for me to see. Okay,
yeah, same here. I literally had to get my stuff into gear, or else stuff was just gonna roast if I wasn't,
Yeah.
Yeah. Basically, was on top of the ball as the heat wave was here. I mean, it told us like 92, 95, and then it went up to 98, and then on the day it was 101. I was like, wow, all right. Okay, spring. Oh man. So yeah, just put it thermometers in every enclosure, every level, from top to bottom. Even there's one sitting on the floor for no goddamn reason other than for me just to look at it.
Yep, just to know your entire room.
Yeah, just to look at it. So I was like, okay, all right, maybe some things can be changed. And so I looked at some enclosures. I turned off. Obviously, some lamps didn't even need to be on. Like some of the double, triple domed, I just unscrewed one or two because I'm like, it's just too hot for any of this.
Right.
So, yeah. Just.
Wow, that brings up some other thoughts too, real quick. Because as it gets hotter, okay, that heat's gonna rise up there.
You gotta lower the lamps that are at the very, very top for sure.
Yeah.
But wait, you don't. So are you just playing? See now, there's not to call you out or anything. Are you just playing like the balance game because of this is the temperatures that are here with these bulbs, and then obviously as you get higher, you use less wattage, right? Are you doing that and then just calling it a day, or does every cage have a thermostat?
No, not every cage. No cages have thermostats right now. Oh, okay. I go around with a temp gun. I just got that little Govee for the ambient humidity and temperature in the middle of the room. Everything else I've been checking.
So what about so your whole room you're expecting your whole room to manage it then, right?
So yeah, so upstairs I have the heating and air unit set to 77 degrees upstairs. Okay. So that has its own air conditioner basically and its own humidifier up there that I'm just filling up to keep.
Lamps are on at that time too, right?
Lamps are on. Now, the first time over this last heat wave, I actually turned the lights. I went in and turned the lights off at night. And then I'm kicking them back on in the morning. And this is what I want to do with a smart plug is be able to do that from my phone. Now, downstairs with the Australian stuff, like the snakes don't have any heat on right now because the ambience in the daytime.
So
yeah, it goes from about 75 during the coldest to about 88 degrees right now over this little heat wave. So, but then it drops back down. It only stays 88 because there's a time where like the warehouse is catching up to what it is outside. So it can be a 5-degree difference. And then there's about an hour where it equalizes, but it's usually towards the end of the evening or end of the afternoon into the evening. And then it only stays up there for about an hour and a half, and then it starts coming back down. So right now,
No, go ahead.
Oh, right now, I know how that acts, and I don't, I'm not doing much for it right now. In the monitor cages, all the Australian stuff, I just leave on and running, and they really don't care. The only thing is I do have to up their food because they will burn. I mean, I can feed them if I only feed them a couple roaches.
Nothing.
Yeah, it's nothing. They got folds on the sides when I walk in the next day.
Yeah.
So to keep them that hot, you got to feed a lot. That's where kind of that old saying comes from. So I could back that off, turn off the lights, or have it set up where they turn off and control, that a little bit. But That's kind of how things are right now.
I have a thermostat in that controls for sure the tops, right?
Yeah.
So the okay, my right now for the weather that's going to be anything above like in the 80s, 90s, and definitely anything hotter, right? The AC is on. So the AC is basically keeping the balance of, I'd say, high 70s, maybe low 80s on the floor, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that's okay for me. That's, like at the lower level. But then in the reptile room at the very top, it can be 90 degrees,
Yeah.
right? At least. And so what I do is because some of the lamps are on, and then the monitors are also doing their thing, and it's hot as well even with the AC on, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not the AC isn't in the reptile room, it's in the house, and it's just cooling a part of the house that leads into the reptile room.
Gotcha.
And so the reptile room is still quite hot. If you were to go to the very far back corner and go to the very top, you'll start sweating, um, and so those cages up there have a thermostat, and then I have the probe right next to the heat lamp, and then it depends, I guess. I have them right next to the heat lamp, so sometimes when I have this set to like 105 or 110, it shuts off. But I've been testing it now where I actually have it on the cooler side, and it has to stay over there, like it's like fastened to the wall.
Mm-hmm.
I then try to only have that go up to like about 85, 90. Now that one is tricky because if it'll reach that temperature all the time and basically stay off. So what I do now is, because I don't want them to always be off, I use them on the hot side, kind of play a devil's, I guess, what is that, devil's advocate, right? Devil's
Advocate,
advocate,
yeah.
right? Where I'm kind of just wavering at what's almost too hot, and then the lamp turns off. That way they still get to bask and everything like that, and there is fractions of the lamp on more. It's just, yeah, it's just not a whole thing, especially when it's really hot, like right now,
Yeah.
And so yeah, those cages, like that cage is on right now, but all the cages on the bottom are off until the nighttime, and that's because if all the lamps are on at nighttime, that cage would be extremely hot
Yeah.
all the time. So yeah, I gotta let that cage cool off, and it's a balance. There's other cages that are on the floor still, and the floor keeps them cooler during
Right.
this time of the year, right? And then the lamps are on, and it's kind of baking. I turned it off during the last couple of days just because there's no need for it to be while it's 100 degrees. But when it gets back to the 60s and 70s, like it's supposed to, I don't know if
Right.
you the weather, it's supposed to go back down to 60s and
Yeah.
70s,
Things got to
and
change again.
it's got to change again, guys. And so you got to pay attention to that again. And make sure you're on your toes with that, especially if you live in a hot state or a state that's very finicky with temperature. Like Texas is another one. There's a few.
Right.
Um, yeah. So
This is where, if you have the ability, like a lot of people, maybe you just keep things in your house, and so maybe it doesn't affect you too much because essentially you can control your house the same way. Now, if your thermostat's in another room, you set up the rest of the house for 72 degrees. Maybe your reptile room is 80 degrees as an ambient, just because there's so much in there. But um, it is nice when you have it set up in that room specifically, because you can, even if you're using the same temperature or the same wattage bulbs, about what range you're going to be in as long as you crank that AC
yeah,
up to filter in that cool air and whatnot. So yeah, be aware of those things, just like Kai was saying, because a 40-degree temperature swing. I think there's a day up here. I don't know how it's going to be down there in Southern California, but I think up here, let's see. Yeah, we're going to be down into like 61 degrees on Monday and
yeah.
80% rain. From
Oh,
90
wait.
degrees to 61 degrees.
Yeah. Now, see, my weather has changed a little bit again. So it was saying 68 degrees, but on Tuesday, which was that day, it's now saying 71, 72. But still, that's roughly in the same range. It's not extra warm at all. It is a nice day, but it's not like toasty or extra hot where you have to worry about the temperature kind of going haywire on you. So, I mean, I like those consistent temperatures because then I can play with it. But dang, if it's going to do this quite so often, it just kind of throws everything off a little bit, you know?
Absolutely does. Yeah, it's a trip, man. Let's see. On another note, I've been trying very hard to get the sand monitors in different pairs, basically. So there's the two like red-eyed animals, right? I've tried to put those two together. They've lived together for a while, no action. Now I try to then separate the two pure animals to pair up with the crosses, like we have for the most part in the U.S. right now, to make more pure animals, and just to see if their behaviors would change or whatnot. I even have put the two females together, the two males together, and then switch them back up. I've put in a trio together. I've even watched two males in with a female to just get a range of what their behaviors are and to watch them. But unfortunately, it seems like the older two animals just don't really have any interest in any kind of reproduction. So I'm hoping that changes. But at this point, I think I'm just going to put the crosses back together, which I know their behavior, as soon as I put the crosses back together, their behavior instantly is like, all right, we're a pair, like a bonded pair. We're going to get at it. The way the male treats the female, even the female, the way she treats that male, you can just tell those two are about each other. You know, that's the best way I can describe it. So sure enough, it looks like she's already starting to swell up just because he's around. But it's unfortunate, you know, I'm going to keep trying with those pure pair to work them in. Now I'm thinking, well, maybe hold on to some babies out of a future clutch from the crosses, see if I can introduce them early, maybe when they're real eager to reproduce and breed. Maybe I can get something going with the older animals. But, you know, it is what it is. I really would like to keep those around in the U.S., but I don't know if it's going to be a possibility. So it's kind of heartbreaking, but at the same time, you know, I put those two crosses back together and they want to go. So I think I'm going to let them go for a few clutches and you know, really get some more of those babies out there. Cause I don't know if you've seen, there's Shane up at Evergreen. He's got two babies for me. And the one from the first clutch that was really darker contrasted animal. Yeah. Oh my God, that thing, I knew it was going to look good. And I'll just put it out there here. So a lot of times we like the babies that look like they're almost like patternless, or they have a lot of red as a baby. It's like
the patterns fused together.
Yeah, it's like a burgundy color. I mean, they look stunning as babies. And then you get one that has some obvious contrast in darker colors and bands in it, and not so much of that burgundy pigment on the back. But I knew this one was going to look amazing. And I remember telling Shane, like, hey, this one's going to, you're going to want this one. This is what I personally like in animals and what I've liked in the past from the original crosses and whatnot. And man, that thing has turned into just a freaking amazing animal. So it's got these black contrasting lines throughout, but then it has those yellows, those like neon greens. And then outlining those neon greens, it has that red, like reddish orange outline. Oh my God. Just dying for that animal. Dying for that that look like that and that kind of look. But throughout a clutch, they vary so much. So I had that animal on one end, and then on the other end, there was an animal that was, you know, basically just that burgundy back with a few spots and stuff and not much other pattern. But now he has two of those animals. So one's an adult, so it's going to keep that coloration. As the other one grows, I'm going to be interested to see how, you know, how much variation as adults. Does that really kind of reddish burgundy back on a baby with not much pattern, does that translate to that as an adult, or does that translate into more just your regular like tan, brown as an adult? you know, to kind of get a better sense of what babies translate into as adults. But I want to play around with more babies, you know.
For me, looking at the mangrove stuff, it's the black background with yellow spots when they're babies, right? Almost all the species. Dorianus, peach throats, right? Mangroves, just they start off. Melanus, another one, right? The black background with the little yellow spots, right? Now for the indicus, the mangroves, um, the yellow becomes the sheen of the animal, right? Overall kind of look, but what comes underneath the blues and the greens, that's when the black separates and the yellow also fragments as well. Those ocelli are kind of there still, but just broken up. You can tell, right? And so the color that comes underneath is what normally the animal is going to look like as the main color. It's not the iridescent sheen that glows as well, but it's like this. Let's say it's blue that comes up. The animal is going to be majority blue, you know, and those yellow spots are the actual spots are there, but then that color is just spread out over the whole animal, and then it's not like it's spotted everywhere, but it's just the sheen of color. Now it's a matrix silver blue with a yellow glow. You know, that's what small might have. Very pretty, very pretty.
Yeah, it's fun. It's even in Ackies now that I'm seeing, like, got my hands on more baby Ackies. I'm starting to develop kind of what I'm expecting out of different pairings, and the ones out of those pairings that maybe if I'm going to keep something back, the ones that I want to hold back. But that being said, even now they'll surprise me sometimes. It's like a new shed, and all of a sudden this Ackie that looked drab the whole time, you know, comes out looking like a fireball. I'm like, what happened to you? Talk about a little glow up, you know. So I'm learning a lot. It's like you can kind of count on one thing, but I would say like 65%. Okay, it's probably going to turn out how you think it's going to look, but every once in a while you're just going to have something that throws you, you know, or like those some that follow after my original male that just kind of turned that, like, not quite black and white, but like gray and I don't even know, like the red is gone, you know. And
on a spectrum of color, when you're looking at like the whole thing, right, you know, it's not really the color, it's like red and pink and orange and all that fade out into each other, and in red even becomes brown. And so it's like a maturity of the color or something.
You watch it grow, and it's like the one pigment is eating away at the other pigment over time. And those Dorianus are a trip. They keep changing. They're kind of surprising me. And at some point I want them to stop changing because I really like how they look. But then another month goes by, I'm like, oh my God, well, that's kind of awesome too. So it's like the back, almost the darker pigment on the back along the spine, it's like it disappeared for a second, you know, and it was just kind of this like motley gray and the yellow spots. But now the black's coming back, but it's kind of in a different way. I don't know. I'm just going to hold on and see how they turn out, but it's definitely fun. I'm really excited about that one. I think they're going to go into one of the big walk-in cages. I got to switch some things around. But I think the Dorianus are going to go in there, but with a separation. So 2 different basking spots in one of the walk-in cages. Whichever one's nicer to me will be on the door side, and then whichever one's not as nice will be back behind the metal, you know, division. And I think that's the approach I'm going to have. So kind of take that same concept that you've been using in that walk-in cage, so they can always see each other, always be around each other, but definitely use something where they can, you know, maybe get a toe through, but nothing more than that. For them.
I use that separation thing for a lot now. I use it obviously to part them and make sure when the female's laying, I can separate the male. But now it's just, okay, you're an annoying eater, bro. You're gonna steal it from her, and she's gonna bite you back, dude. Okay, I had a male grab a female by like this area, right, almost
Yeah.
like by here, right, and it was a barely abrasion, but because it was really pink, you could see his the jaw lining and everything like that, but it wasn't bleeding. And then she goes around when he has food and bites him like right here, and so
Yeah.
his the top of his nose is basically a little bit bleeding. You can see where she gripped him, right, and it's just they're fine now. They're cuddling, so it's like why? And so I have them separated, and when it's feeding time, mostly for sure. Now it's like a great tool to have, less friction, less headache. I can just put food here. Remember, in a couple hours, once they're done eating, I'll switch the latch and let them go back. But yeah, it's a whole ass effort.
Oh yeah, that's gonna be what has to happen though. I knew it was gonna happen at some point. I would have to do more because of this Dorianus project. That's why I was initially like, oh, 2023 sounds like a great plan for that. And maybe I jumped in a little early, but at this point, got to get it done. So
Yeah, man. It'd be great to utilize it. I mean, it's kind of a both thing where they should be raised together when they're young, and then if you have issues as they're growing, you kind of separate them because they're going to reach
yeah,
adolescent and the subadult, so basically almost sexual maturity stage, right?
yeah,
So they go through different motions, want to kind of test themselves out, see how everything is and how dominant another animal is, or who controls this area, or if they're just fighting for resources like food and water,
right.
or basking area or something like that, which they will. Um, and so you want to basically kind of be on top of that and try to eliminate that. And that's what helps out a lot when you have your cage barrier and you're you know a year in, 2 years in, and they're now sexually mature, no longer friendly like they were before.
Right.
That thing will really help. Now the relationship's not over. It's just you got to be more careful now. They got to be separated, or else you may end up losing one. People talk about it all the time, even if it's not talked about all the time. We know it happens, and it's still a common case. Yeah, people don't always want to say it, but we know. When they bring it up randomly, or it's like you ask them about it later. It's like, yeah, I lost this female because of this and this, and I mean, I've been in the same case. Not an animal killing another animal, but I've lost females, and it's like, I don't want to even talk about it.
Lord knows I have. I'm I'm still not talking to you guys about some of the stuff that happened. Kai knows, but I can't bring myself yet. It still hurts. It still hurts so bad. Um, in the future, in the future, maybe next year I'll be ready to talk about it. I want to be as open as I can, but man, it stings too bad. And hey, it happens. But um, yeah. Oh man, my heart's not ready. Um, yeah, man, we're about an hour 30 minutes. Anything you're changing up going forward?
Yeah, I gotta trying to keep the baby Kimberly's a lot better, more like a already setup rather than
Yeah.
just putting something together, having humidity spike too much, and yeah, it's so I have this large Exoterra or mediumish Exoterra kind of, um, and I just have it where it ventilates a lot, but I have good moisture development within the enclosure to keep them from drying out. So that was my issues before, where dang, are you guys too dry? You're like, you're I don't want you to lose your toes and tails, and I have to soak them because it's obviously not coming off. So they should basically kind of not peel off, but as they're doing their normal get up, it fluffs off,
Right.
right? And, yeah, so there's that issue, and then also the foot bumble with this last clutch, man, it sucked.
You
Where
know,
you just question your keeping, it's
yeah,
like, oh, I thought I was doing the right thing, they were fine, it's just humidity spikes because I spilled the water. Freak.
right. I'm in the same boat as that and I know I shared them with you. So I had my baby setups a certain way, and initially I decided to use very low wattage halogen, like 25-watt bulbs, with very restricted ventilation. Well, it works if I'm on top of it and keep everything perfect, right?
Yeah.
if I don't, if like that one clutch that I was raising up where the cage under it, the lights were turned off and that heat wasn't radiating up, it threw off the whole cage above it.
Yeah.
Um, I had now condensation all over the place, and it caused some issues with that clutch. And so, for me, that's too much of a risk to take, just in case I can't be on top of it all the time, or
Yeah.
work or life. But with more ventilation, like you said, like the Exoterras, I added some screen vents to those baby raise ups because for me it's a lot safer to have too much ventilation. Too much ventilation I can still catch in a
Yeah.
week.
You can plug it back up. You can.
Yeah,
I slap some cardboard over it, tape it back up, or something like that, or even if it's inside a heavy duty thing, and you just get a plate and stick it back up if you're losing a lot of heat or
right.
humidity. Yeah.
Well, and now I have those room humidifiers, so I can keep the ambient humidity up, and which allows me to keep more ventilation on the cages, and understand that the it's not like there's a fan inside the cage, so there is some airflow, but it's not like I'm blowing a fan right into the cage where there's sucking
Yeah.
out all that in that way. But the dirt gets to stay a lot more dry on top. Now, as you go down a little bit, of course, as we've talked about, you'll have some more moisture in there. And I'm going to be, now that I have these vents on there, I'm going to be stocking up on the leaf litter a lot more because that stuff really does work good. But for all the babies, because when I would bring babies home, I had no problems in an exo. The babies at the warehouse that I had in exos, I had no problems whatsoever. I mean, you could almost look at them, even if they're on dirt, they were clean all the time. The shed seemed to come right off. I didn't have any. We're talking like Kimberly's and Tristus babies. I had no toe problems. I had no tail problems, and these things have really, thin little toes and tails. But with these other tubs, the Ackies did fine. But as soon as I had that one incident, I started noticing some other things and thinking back, like sometimes the wet dirt would clump to their toes. So I'd pick them up, putting them in a bucket of water, kind of wash it off and break up that clump on their toes. And that could be dangerous because just like skin can constrict on the toes, that clump of dirt can constrict on those toes. So just not a problem I wanted to. So I'm making that adjustment going forward into this year. More higher room ambient. I'm not talking crazy. I'm aiming for about 35% ambient room humidity for downstairs, with more ventilation, and then to keep the dirt a little more moist in those different situations, with the top being dry. That's important. So you don't get the bumblefoot like we've been talking about. You don't get some other issues. That top needs to be dry. What else going forward, man? I think some of it's always on the fly. I don't even know. Adding more of the smart stuff now that I have like actual Wi-Fi in the warehouse, seeing how that does for me. And I'll share with you guys how that works out, whether it's easy or not. Hopefully I can get a hold of, I don't want to say too much because I don't know too much, but I think Ryan's system, instead of like, so on this Govee app and on these Wise cameras, I have to have a different app for everything. On Ryan's system, I believe it's just all one app. So you can go in and control everything conveniently from there. But I'm still waiting to see the products and try them out. But it could, the one thing is, with some of these, you run into subscription issues. So make sure which one you're buying beforehand. Look at their app, look at their subscription issues, if that's something you want or not. Because, I can understand how that could get expensive. Like on these Wise cameras, I think it's $2 to stream to the cloud and save it on a cloud, but it's $2 for every camera a month. So that could get rather expensive if you have 10 cameras. That's $20 per month over the year. It get a little expensive. So make sure you check into those things before you purchase any of those. What else? Oh, the Timor eggs. I think I have one for sure that's going to stay good.
Nice, man.
One that's iffy, and one it didn't dent or anything. It just started molding. I've been wiping the mold off. I could still see veins inside, but it's a battle I'm losing. It's just the entire egg's now encased in this mold. I don't know what happened there. The veins look good inside, and then the other egg, it started denting and it hasn't filled back out. Now it still has great looking veins, no mold on it, anything like that. But some denting going on. It's not filling back out. And then the other one looks perfect. So let's go, Timors. I just give me one. I just need to hatch one. I want two if I can. But hopefully it'll improve as I get these things more locked on and figure them out. So.
Gotta wait for my stuff to. I'm just waiting for these coli pairs to go. I have stuff sitting around and that other male that I'm acclimating, so he'll actually be a third male. And then I'll have 4 different male mangroves types going at once. So
yeah,
Jody and Athena do their thing. I'm not really pushing for like a ton out of them or anything like that. If they breed, they breed. If they don't, they don't. I'm kind of really focused, and my main big enclosures are for the coli right now, and I have 75%ers going that will be the resulting babies, and then I have peers that are paired together as well right now. And so, yeah, man, fingers crossed on something maybe this year. The male 75%er, or he's only 50%, but the babies will be 75%. The male that I have, he's just coming in about 2 to 3 years old now, so he's not. I don't know if he's not old enough or just getting into maturity to breed. But yeah, man, I'm waiting for him to hit like 3 years old, coming soon, and maybe he'll go.
Yeah.
Maybe he'll go. I think I hatched that one out in 2020 or 2021. I forget. I don't know. When do we have the pandemic start? 2020?
Yeah. March 2020.
Yeah, that's when I hatched out the coli. What do you call it? The mutts. The mutts, yeah.
On a side note, I had a conversation with a Python guy about some stuff. I'm going to start saving the kind of that residual egg yolk when the babies hatch for the monitors, possibly the eggs too, but try to freeze the egg yolk that I can that comes out of there, and see if I can save it, see if I can what it's like when I reheat it or bring it back up to room temperature if it's usable, to try to set possible food items for some of these like pygmy pythons or these Antaresia that are notoriously hard to get started for feeding. So while not directly monitor related, it's using their scents, that eggshell, because I think that's a natural. Well, I think they're natural predators of each other, both the like something like an Ackie and a pygmy python out in the wild. So where baby Ackie might be a meal for an adult pygmy, and a small pygmy python might be a meal for an Ackie. So kind of interesting. It might be something fun to play around, and I'll let you guys know how it works. But having a diverse collection, you get these little weird ideas and stuff, and see how that. Have some fun with it. Might as well. Yeah, man. I think this is our 1 year. I think we're both kind of the same mindset. We got a couple guests we've talked about.
So much going on, man.
Agreed. But yeah, I think we're gonna have some guests on for you guys soon. Cover some other species specific episodes. I know you guys really liked the Rudy episode, so maybe some more on that. As well as some of my favorite episodes that we've done. I'd like to retouch maybe on those guests again. Not that we haven't had any bad guests, but we've had some interruptions. Sometimes we've had some equipment not work, or it just the audio wasn't good. So to get those guys back on and share some of that information, lost a couple whole episodes with people. That's unfortunate, but we're learning more about that and how it happens and things we can do. So hopefully this next year of podcast for us will be a lot better, more consistent with that. And then we won't be scrambling for, no podcast for 3 weeks, 4 weeks, because that episode didn't record right or whatever. What
I don't
else,
know.
man?
I think you guys will love it when we you know actually drop an episode. So maybe the waits might be worth it. Yeah.
Yeah,
We're just getting as we come into stuff to talk about and what we have going on. Don't get me wrong. It's just with people's schedules and stuff now. I mean, basically, my lady is using the computer for most of the day because of school too. So during most of the week, it's kind of tough for me to want to record. Unless like she ends early and then so that's rare. Yeah, so the weekends is where we're at, and we got to make time on the weekend, and then some guests are not always available, even if
true.
we want them to be on.
They have
Um,
their lives too.
yeah, it's that's the thing is when you're kind of dealing with monitors, and a lot of guys we talk to, they have a lot, so it's like,
Yeah,
all right, let me try to fit in this hour before lunch or before dinner or something like that, and then they got to kind of get to their day. Because there's just so much to do on top of your normal life. We don't want to trump that because you have to take care of that too.
yeah. We're not like
Yeah.
these snake guys. I like infecting their collections with some monitors and bringing them into the suck a little bit. Uh,
Yeah.
but yeah, man. Okay, let's get to it. Kai, we should touch on this. Where can people find you?
You're able to find me on Facebook at Mangrove Mecca. You should just be able to look up Mangrove and Mecca. Um, you'll be able to find me on my personal page. I'm not really going to strict people from that, but I'm trying to move towards having a lot of monitor related stuff onto the Mangrove Mecca page. So if you guys are looking for another page to follow, voila. Right. I'm also on Instagram under big underscore lizard 103. And I'm on YouTube under Mangrove Mecca as well. Man, there's quite a few places to find me. You can find me on California Grasshopper now too. I just realized so many places you can kind of find me. So
Yeah.
you can go through Allen, you can go through NPR. So yeah, I'm just available almost anywhere. But if you want to just message me kind of directly, my Facebook, I'm pretty responsive. Um, yeah. What about you, man?
You can find me on Facebook at Origins Reptile. Um, I've said it before, but I'll say it again because I'm afraid I might be offending some people out there. If you look me up under Alan Stevens, yes, I have my personal Facebook page on there. But unless we've like personally met, you've spent time with my family or me with yours, I'm probably not going to accept the request. And it's just to keep a little bit of myself separate from the reptile
Yeah.
stuff. Because, my wife, unfortunately, she doesn't want to hear about reptiles all the time. Believe it or not, it's a crazy thing. And I'm posting pictures of my kids doing kid stuff and growing up and stuff, having conversations with family members and whatnot. So I keep that private. For the most part. And then on Instagram, you can follow me at origins_reptile. I'm really want to maybe this spring and summer get some YouTube videos out for you guys to see some of the stuff, like have more of a look into the collection a little bit. But of course, that's more time and everything, and I've got all the animals and everything. So as much as I want to make it happen, and I want to make it happen in that timeline and share it with you guys, sometimes it's just hard. Sometimes I just have enough time to care for the animals in a day and, get back home and get to bed before work in the morning. But I'd like to get that out there. As far as the show itself, we're under the Morelia Python Radio Network. And big thank you to Eric for all that he's done for us, for helping us, two guys that just wanted to talk about monitors, giving us a chance and kind of under his guidance and help for getting us out there, for putting us out there. So when we don't post these shows ourselves, this is Eric that posts them for us, that does some of the editing, the music, the intro. That's all Eric that did that stuff for us to help us along. Putting us on his website. And what the heck is that, man? Is that a triceratops?
It's a brachiosaurus. A brachiosaurus. I think so. I don't know. It's actually a triceratops. Yeah, it
It's
is.
Triceratops.
You can see
It's
the
a
top.
Dino Nuggets. Kai's got
Dino
Dino
Nuggets.
Nuggets.
My lady just brought me some Dino Nuggets.
She's a keeper. You know, so I lost where I was. But anyways, big thank you for making this happen. Hopefully we can bring you guys another year of some good content and some better stuff. I will say over this next year, one thing I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be keeping a lot better records on my animals. Write down how many days from witness copulation, especially hopefully with the help of cameras and whatnot, to egg laying, to the babies hatching, temperatures they're hatching at for the different species, temperatures I'm keeping them at, and I'm just going to start recording a lot more data. And hopefully that will be worth something in the future as I start to build upon it and looking back to just over, let's say 2-3 years. And then maybe I can pull something helpful from all that between all the species. So, but anyways, I'm rambling. Go on to MoreliaPythonRadio.com. You can find all the information, not only about our show, but you can also find all the podcasts that they're bringing to you. There's several, and some new ones even that came out. Even though Eric's like, getting a little busy, I need to stop. He doesn't. He keeps going. He presses in a little more, and it's to bring you guys some great information. So if you're wondering about another type of reptile outside of varanids, go look into those, or on some of the other ones, the Australian
herping stuff.
Oh yeah. They get into talking about not only monitors but other things. The field herping stuff is always exciting. Some of these guys are just characters. It's funny to listen to them. It's entertaining. So you can also go find them. If you need to get a hold of them, it's info@MoreliaPythonRadio.com to ask questions about our show, anything else. You can message us directly, of course. You can find them Morelia Python Radio on Instagram and on Facebook, and at the NPR network. So look them up, give them a follow, give them a like, because they're doing a lot of work, and basically for free to bring all this stuff to you guys. So, well, we say for free to all of us on the receiving end, not so free for Eric. So,
thank you, Eric.
Yeah, thank you for all that you're doing. Go buy something off of their store over there. Go become a Patreon. Go try to kick in money somehow. And Eric's a really nice guy, really humble guy, and very generous with what he does. So if you ask him directly, he's probably going to not let you. But go support them and buy some of the NPR calendars that they put out. So you can have a reptile calendar with some great photos hanging on your wall. Maybe we should get a monitor calendar hanging up here, Kai. Brought to you by Mangrove Mecca. Put it all on you.
I need some more stuff.
Some more to do. But yeah, thank you guys very much for listening. Thank you for being with us over a year of recorded episodes and giving us feedback, being a part of this. The one thing I'll say, don't be afraid to ask us questions. No matter, I can't get to everybody. Unfortunately, it's getting to that point where there's a lot of questions asked. But Don't be afraid to reach out to us and throw that question out there.
Sometimes we don't finish a topic because of time, or we'll go on to something else, and you wanted to know more about it. Feel free to message us.
Yeah, and sometimes I don't even know. Like, there's ways that people message me, and I have to accept it, like on IG, but it says it's like hidden somehow. It's like a pending. Do you want to accept this message? I don't know why it doesn't come straight through sometimes, but it gets a little confusing.
Because you're either private or you're not friends with them. They've made it a little bit more
restrictive.
Harder, restricted, yeah.
Okay, so I notice that sometimes, and then I'll get on there, and it's like, you messaged me 3 months ago. I don't mean anything by not getting back to you. I just didn't even know how to look into it.
On Facebook, there's like 3. There's your normal messenger, and then if you're not friends and you don't have too much relation, they will put you in a spam, and there's a spam that you don't want to read, and you just ignore it.
Okay.
I have a lot of those.
Sorry, guys. We don't mean anything by it. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe
it's
click that like button.
Someone's like, I messaged you. I'm like, oh, you didn't. And then at the time, I didn't know that there was the secret spam things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys.
Yeah, I found a couple of those. Or, we'll get 5 questions in an hour sometimes from different people. And sometimes I'll lose track because I'll be riding around at work doing different things. And I'll make the mental note to get back to you and what it was kind of about. But then I don't remember which person asked which question. So forgive me. I'm only one person. But I do want to help. So still try to message me. If I don't get right back to you, maybe message me again. Some things I can't help. Some things I've had some questions where people are asking my general opinion, but I haven't kept that species. I maybe give some general guidelines, but I don't work with that. But I'll do my best or try to point you in the right direction. Okay, but there's a lot of information out there. Try to get a hold of the good information. Look around, spend some time. If you're listening to this in advance before you own an animal, definitely do the research first, because afterwards it's just kind of like a shitstorm sometime to get yourself corrected.
To put it simply, it's a very stressful.
Yeah, stressful on you, stressful on the animal, maybe stressful on your pocketbook if you weren't all the way ready for it. So those different things. But yeah, reach out to us. Some people are a little shy to ask a question sometimes because the Facebook pages or whatnot will beat you up if you don't, have a certain species of bromeliad growing out of the cork wall that, in 80% humidity, blah, 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 blah. Yes, you can ask me a question directly like that. I'll try to steer you in the right direction. What has worked for me, what I've seen work for other people that I know and trust. Sorry, there's a lot of bad information out there. I'm not saying I have all the good information, but if you've been on any Facebook page to any degree, you'll see, yeah, I'll leave it at that. Yeah, anything else, Kai, before we, Kai's over there with a mouthful of nuggets.
Yeah, I'm getting hungry.
Yeah.
It's been a long day. I've been up since like 3 a.m. So
oh man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, you guys. Have a great day. And we will see you in the next podcast.
All right, everybody.